Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever had one of those days at work where you feel like you're just running on a hamster wheel? You're pouring all your energy into a project, working so hard, only to hear that things are moving too slowly? If you've ever worked in a large organization, and especially if you're in government, this probably sounds way too familiar. And honestly, it's just incredibly frustrating.
And it leads you to ask this one really painful question. You know you're putting in the hours. You know you're doing your best to make a real difference. So why does it feel like all that effort just disappears? Why does it seem like to the outside world, absolutely nothing is getting done?
This quote, wow, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that confusing, painful gap between what you know you're doing and what other people see. It's a feeling that can really make you second-guess yourself, and it's something dedicated public servants deal with all the time.
So let's just get one thing straight right now. If any of this is hitting home for you, the problem isn't you. It's not. The delays, the friction, the sense that you're shouting into the void, it's almost never about someone being lazy. It's a symptom of some really complex issues that are baked right into the system itself.
And that brings us to the core idea we're going to unpack today. The bureaucratic paradox. It's this strange, frustrating conflict that explains how so much intense individual hard work can somehow result in really slow, clunky progress for the organization as a whole.
Okay, so this slide really lays out the two sides of that paradox. Now, I want you to picture all that systemic friction, the outdated rules, the lack of resources as a giant, bone-dry sponge. You pour your energy, your hard work, all your effort onto this sponge. But the sponge, it just soaks it all up. And the tiny little trickle of water that actually comes out the other side, that's the slow result that everybody sees. They don't see the sponge, they just see the trickle, and they blame you for not pouring faster.
So if the system is the real problem, what's actually in that giant sponge we were just talking about? Let's peel back the layers and take a look at the four main systemic things that are creating all this friction and delay. These are the four big ones we're going to dive into. We're talking about everything from maddeningly tiny rules and a constant shortage of people and money to a work culture that's built on mistrust and, yeah, an unfair system of who you know. Each one of these just adds another heavy layer of friction.
This quote just says it all, right? Can you imagine the sheer amount of time and mental energy wasted chasing down a receipt for just a few cents? This isn't really about being responsible with money. No, it's a symptom of a system that is built on a deep, fundamental mistrust. A system that just assumes everyone's trying to pull a fast one, which forces you to focus on tiny, meaningless paperwork instead of actually getting big, important things done.
And then there's this. You're basically caught in this constant squeeze. You can see it here. Public demand for better and faster services, it's always on the rise. But at the exact same time, official policies are often calling for fewer staff and smaller budgets. It's an impossible situation, really. You're being told to do more with less.
And you know, that culture of mistrust we talked about, it absolutely poisons communication. I mean, look at this chart. A massive 40% of communication failures happen just because the information isn't understood. You get orders from the top with zero context, and there's no easy way to ask questions. You add in outdated technology and a lack of modern skills, and what you've got is a perfect recipe for constant, frustrating delays.
And finally, you've got this patronage system. It basically creates a deeply unfair two-track reality. See, if you have the right connections, you get to zoom along in this informal fast lane. But for everybody else, well, you're stuck in the slow lane, the bureaucratic lane, forced to navigate every single piece of red tape. And let me tell you, nothing kills morale faster than seeing that kind of blatant unfairness happening day in and day out.
So these systemic problems, they're not just abstract ideas on a chart. They have a very real and often very damaging impact on the human beings working inside the system. So what is the actual human cost of all this friction and frustration?
The result of all that constant pressure and that feeling of not being recognized, well, it has a name: burnout syndrome. And this isn't just feeling a bit tired. No, this is a clinical state of complete emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion that comes from exactly the kind of long-term, excessive stress we've been talking about.
And just how common is it? Well, research shows that a staggering 1 in 5 civil servants reports feeling high levels of work-related stress. Just think about that for a second. In a team of 5 people, there's a good chance one person is really, truly struggling. This is a quiet crisis that's happening on a huge scale.
And the consequences are just devastating, both for the mind and the body. That constant feeling of worthlessness, that lack of motivation, it doesn't just stay in your head. That chronic stress puts your whole body on high alert, and it leads to a much higher risk of serious physical problems, like high blood pressure, diabetes, and more. The cost of a broken system is paid by the health of the people who work in it.
Okay, after breaking down such a huge, complicated problem, it would be really easy to feel hopeless. But you shouldn't, because understanding the system is the very first step to being able to navigate it and maybe even change it. So let's talk about a path forward. What can actually be done, both for you as an individual and for the system itself?
For anyone who feels stuck in this paradox, the single most powerful thing you can do is right here. It's all about reframing your perspective. This is a mental shift. You have to recognize that the problem is systemic, that it's not a personal failure on your part. That is the absolute key to letting go of the self-blame and building the resilience you need to survive.
So, building on that mental shift, here are 3 really practical strategies. First, you have to keep reinforcing that new mindset. It's the system, not me. Second, you need to learn to actively manage your body's response to all that stress, maybe using things like mindfulness. And third, and this one is so important, build your network. Find those colleagues who get it, because having a strong support system is your absolute best defense.
Now, looking at the bigger picture, there actually is reason for hope. The official goals for government reform are exactly what's needed. Services that focus on the citizen, using modern digital tech, and really developing talented people. So the blueprint is there. The huge challenge? Well, the rollout of these great ideas is often blocked by the exact same deep-rooted, mistrustful culture that they're trying to fix.
And so that's what it all comes down to in the end. Every single problem we talked about, from chasing tiny receipts all the way to career burnout, it all grows from a culture of mistrust. Real, lasting reform isn't about buying new software or drawing a new org chart. It's about a fundamental shift in culture. And that leaves us with the ultimate question. How does a system that was built on mistrust ever learn to finally trust its own people?